Thank you, Alice. Thank you all for coming. This is one of my favorite topics, as you can imagine, to talk about innovation and what's going on in the world today. So since we're going to talk about innovation, let's first define it. It sounds a little loud up here, is it? Are you okay? It's okay? You probably heard this expression, build a better mousetrap, and you know the rest of it. Well, there have actually been 6,000 mousetrap patents. However, only 3 of them have had any real success. So how many of those 6,000 do you think are innovations? All 6,000? Maybe all 3, huh? Just the 3. So what is the definition of innovation? It's the creation and delivery of new customer value in the marketplace with a sustainable business model for those who produce it. You have to create it, and you have to deliver it into the marketplace, new customer value. If people don't use it, it's not an innovation. And if it's not sustainable for a period of time, it can't be an innovation either. And those 6,000, most of those 6,000 mousetraps didn't pass these tests. It often gets confused with other things like creativity, invention and IP, teamwork, entrepreneurship, and business skills. Those are all inputs. So those mousetraps were inventions, and they may have been clever, but they weren't innovations. These are all inputs. So this is what we're going to be talking about, when you actually deliver real value into the marketplace. Now, innovations come in many forms. The computer mouse, Dell came up with a new way to produce computers and then sell them over the internet. Muhammad Yunus, you know, came up with the idea of microcredit for women in India, and he won the Nobel Prize for that. He developed a sustainable way to keep that going all the way through India. And if you design a beautiful new chair, it has new value for society, that's an innovation too. Innovations can be small or they can be huge. There's a whole range of them, but they all contribute to the well-being of society. How about innovators? Well, we all know about Steve Jobs, but a doctor who comes up with a new procedure is also an innovator because he creates more value for his patients. Or a teacher who comes up with a new curriculum. That person can be an innovator too by creating more value for the students. In fact, if you have a customer, you have the opportunity to create more value for them. That's all it takes, one customer. So we live in a different world, and I'm going to describe some parts of it tonight. Let's start with America. America is an amazing place. We have abundant freedom, abundant technology, abundant labor, abundant land, abundant trade, and abundant natural resources. It's a region that is absolutely blessed with advantages. But if we look at America today, obviously our economy is going sideways. And we have a debt that if we don't solve it and start paying it off, it will cripple America, particularly for the young people alive today. We're taking away their future by not addressing that enormously serious problem. How about California? Only about 15 years ago, California was rated the best place in the United States to do business. Today, it is last. It is the worst place in America. America's for lease. California's for lease. And here's an amazing fact. 5 companies are leaving California every week. People are pouring out of California because they can't work here today. And unfortunately, our situation is getting worse. It's not improving. And we have to be careful that we don't become Greece too. We have to work to make sure that doesn't happen. In 2008, the United States was rated #1 in terms of competitiveness, only a few years ago. Now we're #5. It looks like our trajectory is straight down. At the same time, standards around the world are going up. It's becoming a much more competitive, demanding place. And we have to raise our game too if we're going to be successful. Consider China's GDP. So in the year 2020, you know, it depends on who does the estimate, but their GDP will probably be similar to the United States. And if they keep on growing at the rate they are, though, the next year it'll be 10% bigger. And then it'll be 21% bigger. And then it'll be 33% bigger. Now, if we let that happen, who is the world going to pay attention to, us or China? When you're growing at 10% per year and you're the biggest country in the world, you gather a lot of attention. We might even lose the dollar as the international currency, which would be a disaster for America. We can't let that happen. Here's another interesting fact. China has more honors students than we have students. Being 1 in a million in China is actually no big deal. What are we doing? Over the last 40 years, we've increased our spending on education by about 2.5 times. We've improved nothing. The outcomes are 0. We have made no improvements in our educational outcomes. Well, why is this? I think there's a reason that contributes to why this is happening. I think that most media don't understand what's going on. They have it wrong. I think most politicians have it wrong. And I think most educators, unfortunately, have it wrong. They have it wrong because they believe in scarcity. They believe in a scarce world where all you can do is carve things up. You can't grow and build new things. And because of that, they get what they look for. They get scarcity. They produce scarcity. And they sound like this. They show fear, pessimism, protectionism, looking inward and not outward, and adapting and not adapting. They can't see the abundance that's around us, particularly in America and California. They don't have the skills to capture it. And so they do many, many things that hurt our future, and particularly our children's future. I do not share that view. And this is also not a zero-sum game. We can thrive because we have the knowledge of what to do. I believe in abundance. But we must innovate abundantly. Now, we've been in this position before in America. Some of you are old enough to remember Edward Deming, who introduced the idea of quality into manufacturing after World War II. And he worked primarily with the Japanese because we wouldn't pay attention to him. And if you remember then, Japanese products were very low quality, but they were very smart. They understood what Deming was talking about, and they implemented it first better than anybody in the world. And if you remember, during that period, they were wiping out one business after another across America. We lost millions of jobs because we weren't paying attention in the boardroom. We weren't paying attention on the factory floor, and our classrooms were not educating our people to understand the genius that was behind this idea. Finally, in the 80s, we woke up and we started to implement these ideas too. Now everybody in the world implements Deming's ideas, and those that were invented in Japan by Ono-san at Toyota and many other brilliant people there who were dedicated to the highest quality in the world. But now, it feels like we're back where we were. Nothing seems to be working, and I dare say it's time to pay attention again.